visit Scandinavia House, which we opened 15 years ago as a place especially where Americans could come to learn more about life and culture and the Nordic world. Today's talk is part of a series of programs that we're offering in conjunction with our current exhibition, Painting Tranquility, Masterworks by Wilhelm Hammershøi from SMK, the National Gallery of Denmark. I hope most of you have seen it. If you haven't, you'll have a chance to see it right after the talk, after the program. And we're very grateful to SMK, that's Statens Museum for Kunst, for organizing the exhibition and making it available to Scandinavia House. And this exhibition was prompted partly by a desire for SMK to be better known in the US and also for the American Friends of SMK to be better known. Today's talk is organized in collaboration with the American Friends of SMK, and I'd like to welcome Hannah Støvring, who's right here, the Executive Director, and I'll call her up in a few minutes to say a few words. And it was really her dedication to this project from the beginning that made it all come together as this wonderful exhibition and series of programs. There's a card outside with a picture of the exhibition on the front of it that has a list of all the other programs that have been going on. And these include concerts, artist workshops for kids, which is going on right now, lectures, and there's a film series that will be continuing on Wednesdays and Fridays through mid-December. And these programs have been supported in part by a grant from the Consulate General of Denmark in New York. Two of them are coming up, one very soon and one later on, and the one very soon is tomorrow evening. It's called Danish Modernity, Ries and Hammershøi in 1900. It's a lecture with Dr. Torm Mednick and Dr. Bonnie Jokkelsen, and it's co-presented by the Museum of the City of New York, which is where it will take place and where there is currently an exhibition on Jacob Riis. And that's tomorrow evening. And then you might mark your calendars for February 20th. We'll have a special afternoon symposium on Hammershøi called The Silent Uncanny as we come to the close of the exhibition, which will be here until the 27th of February. So our two artists and our artist and curator today, Jesper Just. Jesper is a Danish artist who studied at the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts and now lives and works in New York City. He uses film technology and installation strategies to create visual narratives that address a lot of complex contemporary issues. He has works in over 25 museum collections around the world, and some of his most recent solo exhibitions have been at the Gallery Nikolai Wallner in Denmark, the Portland Art Museum, the National Museum of Modern and Contemporary Art in Seoul, South Korea, and Aarhus, the Aarhus Art Museum. Marianne Torp is a chief curator at SMK, the National Gallery of Denmark. And she's responsible for X-Rummet, the SMK Contemporary Art Program, and has curated numerous exhibitions there too, including a recent exhibition of the work of Elmgren and Dragset entitled Biography. And she also curated Don Vo's solo exhibition, Mother Tongue, at the Danish Pavilion at the Venice Biennale this past summer. Marianne joins director Mikael Boog and curator Kasper Monrad from SMK, who have been here to speak during the run of the Painting Tranquility. And we're very pleased to welcome her and Jesper Just here this afternoon. But first, let me invite Hannah Støvring to come up and say a few words.
Yes, I would also like to welcome all of you to Scandinavia House this afternoon. And welcome to Jesper Just and Marianne Torp as well. I would like to just present a little bit about the American Friends of the Danish National Gallery, or just want to mention it. Some of you today are already patrons of this program, which is all about making more exchange of art possible, and that's mainly also the whole collaboration with Scandinavia House about this Wilhelm Hammershøi exhibition that you will find upstairs at the 3rd floor in the galleries, and I would recommend you all to, of course, go and see the exhibition afterwards. But it's also about exchanging more collaboration and more activities around the different Danish-American artists and projects going on here in New York. So if you don't know us already, I would recommend you, outside of the room, there's a little postcard telling a little bit more about the American Friends organization, and especially these ones with this exhibition here. It's also, of course, possible to become a member and get a lot of lovely materials from the organization. So without further, welcome again. And if you have any questions of any sort, I'm of course here for the rest of the afternoon. And I would like to welcome to the stage Jesper Just, the artist, and Marianne Torp, the curator from the National Gallery. Welcome.
Good afternoon, and also from Jesper and me, thank you for coming. I'm very honored to be here today because I'm a big fan of Jesper's work. I've been following it since your first gallery show in Copenhagen, back, I believe, in 2004. And I've been following Jesper's work and his production and his career, basically, and we have acquired quite a few pieces of his fourth collection. Giving this talk today is also on the occasion of Jesper being invited back to the 10th anniversary of Performa festival going on throughout November here in New York. Jesper was invited for the first Performa 10 years ago and is now back with a huge collaborative live performance that's taking place these 3 afternoons. This one being the second, in the second performance. So actually, this means that Jesper has to run a little to 4 to be able to be there downtown for the live performance at 4:30. Throughout Jesper's career, or from the very outset of his production, he's been working with video. And he has developed this increasing interest in the cinematographic visuality that looks a little bit like, almost like Hollywood films. It has this focus on high definition, sharpness. He's been working with professional characters throughout his careers, but in contrast to what you would expect from a film, from a Hollywood film, Jesper's studies, or Jesper's works are always open-ended. There's no storyline that you can detect from the beginning to the end, and you're left with this ambiguous feeling in a way. I think actually Carl would like to, we planned this talk as you will see small examples of Jesper's works, small video clips and some stills, and then we will talk on them, and you can hear Jesper speak more elaborate on them. So Carl, if you could please start with the first clip, it would be great.
I was alright for a while.
This was just a little taste, a teaser, but maybe Jesper, you could use this as a starting point for talking a little bit on the situation that you seem to create. That's, as I said, open-ended or as we...
Well, this one came, I was in my early video work very focused on male relationships, and I was thinking about in relation to the Virginia Woolf essay, A Room of One's Own, and I was thinking now that you know it's about that she writes about that the female artist will have to have a room of her own in order to create work that is not depending on the male artist or the male the men's universe. So my idea was a little bit now that since modernism kind of the man has been in crisis, because how to relate, the media is constantly, it's not going, I mean it keeps creating these very stereotypical images of gender and how men are supposed to be. So I was thinking, so maybe the men needs a room of their own so they can redefine themselves. And I thought it was kind of ironic to use a strip club, because it is like a club that mostly men visit, and they come there they expect something, but it's kind of, you know, it seems like that it's never really fulfilled, I guess, what you expect to get in a location like that. So I wanted to, there are no women in these, it's 3 films, it's based on, it's a trilogy all shot in this very old strip club in Copenhagen, and there are no women coming, so it's only these men, and they kind of, they continue singing, and they kind of a cappella, all these men in the strip club, they just stand up and sing Crying by Robinson, so it becomes like a, I don't know, mental striptease, so they let the veil kind of fall, and then they kind of interact with each other. So I was interested in the emotional man in a public or semi-public space.
But what I also feel is quite central to your work is how you point to these, maybe not marginalized, but not that prioritized or not that privileged groups that might be gay people, transgender people, women even, disabled people. And I think here you touches on this, yeah, the gender thing, but also this very, not exactly transgender, but you're touching upon some gender issues more about the male stereotypes, I guess, in this work.
I think the early work I worked with the actual stereotypes, especially the one that you would see all the time, the man, the young man, for instance. Yeah, I'm very interested in using characters, especially later, we will probably get to that, but that are usually not in the center of a story, and but presenting them in the center of the story, but where the narrative is not, is whatever to call it in these films, but it's not actually about the fact that they are the other in like a European kind of optic or Western. Because usually if there is like a mainstream film with a character that is marginalized, it's about the fact that this person is the other, and it's about how terrible it is to be this person, and it usually is a tragedy. It's very rare that it's just a person and that deals with other kind of issues. I mean, I'm talking about mainstream film, of course. There are other films that deal with.
And that's actually a very good cue to see the next video clip, which is from a film called This Nameless Spectacle. It's from 2012. And before you start, this is actually an installation of 2 panoramic projections placed on opposite each other in one space, just so that now you have a chance to see them both on top of each other, but you should envision a situation where you walk into almost like a corridor situation where you have these 2 projected video images on each side of you. So please.
Yeah, the woman you saw in this in the video clip is actually the woman who is in the very start of the film is sitting in this wheelchair, wheeling through a park in Paris. Could you talk a little bit more about these locations that you've chosen for this?
Yeah, so I always start with the location as a concept before I even know what it's going to be about. And in this case, it was a French museum that asked me to do a project. So and they said that I had to be. It was kind of the money had to stay within the country. So I knew that I had to do a film in Paris or in France. And then I usually have these different ideas, and I had this idea of working with a transgender woman, and then also this park called Buchamont, which is actually not so touristic, but it is in Paris, up in the north part of Paris, and it was created in 1865, I think, and everything is artificial. This mountain's all created, so and all the trees are brought in from all over the world. So I thought it was interesting to use that kind of location to also mirror with the idea of a transgender character, because I mean basically to point to what is culture, what is nature, and so you have this totally created park, but you also have this character who's undergone a sex change. So and the wheelchair is kind of also has a few different layers that you can explain.
Also, very often in your works, as you saw in the first video clip, there's this quite ambiguous relation going on between characters in your films. Here, between the woman, the transgender woman, and this young man who seems to follow her, and who's also, when she looks out the window in the video clip, he's actually there trying to blind her with a reflection in a mirror from the building opposite hers when she looks out the apartment, right? So, can you elaborate a little bit on how these ambiguous relations come across?
Yeah, I'm very interested in that area where you don't really know what's the relationship, because it's also in a way when you look at mainstream film, it's always the most important thing is to make sure that there's no doubt about what's the relationship. It might start like a puzzle, but it will always, at the end, you'll know. Everyone should understand exactly what's going on, and it's, especially if it's about male relationship, it's also very often very important to make it clear that these two guys are not lovers or whatever. I'm interested in that area where you're kind of confused what is the relationship between characters, because it's rare that we get to stay there. So usually the films is never really kind of resolved, or they don't have backstory. These characters suddenly they just appear. So it is like zapping in on a channel, on a film that you had on TV, and then you don't know what's going on because you didn't see it, and then you just step away again. So it kind of is like just a cutout of the feeling of it being a cutout of a larger narration that you don't get. So hopefully it will continue. Stay in your mind that you start thinking about what is it I'm actually watching, because it looks like cinema, but it's not really a narrative. There's like a micro narrative, maybe like an open moment to have to kind of suggest something, because I think it's interesting to use the language of the films. So when the audience, the museum goer will see it, you will read it in relation to the film kind of objective, and that's when you can kind of start playing with the expectations.
Yeah, and then trying to interpret these films that you're watching, or when see your work. I mean, you don't have these stereotypes to fall back on, basically. But in this film, what you were just about to see was actually when she then comes home from this tour in the park, she stands up and leaves the wheelchair and then falls into these, you don't really know if it's spasms or an orgasm or what is happening there. So you constantly point to these very ambiguous situations. These next couple of pictures or images are from the Danish pavilion in 2013 in Venice, where Jesper actually transformed the whole building, which is this small architectural entity, into an installation. And I find that very interesting because now we are here on the occasion of you actually doing this live performance in New York, and it seems as if your increasing interest in how the films are installed, from just being single projections or maybe 3 films shown on 3 walls in a space. It seems to me that you become more and more aware of this whole viewing situation that's going on. And as you can see here, it was quite elaborate what Jesper actually did. He totally transformed the way you insert the building with these artificial concrete walls, and put up this neon or this UV light.
Grow light, so it keeps the bamboo growing, but the light makes it look really uncanny because you can't see the green color. So it has this really nice, yeah. But it's true, yeah. So I think I got tired of people asking when are you doing a feature film, because it's not my goal was never to do that, but because it's so cinematic and it just seems to be like a short. Sometimes when it's just one channel, I was starting to think also more about expanding it somehow also to the space to also create a different kind of experience. Because when you watch, when you go to the cinema, you kind of mounted to your seat and your only head. You don't really have your body with you. And I feel these are like, this one is 5 channels. I also did one with 8 channels. So each film they are on continuous loops, and you just walk from one to the other. But you can decide yourself, and it's like scenes, could be like scenes of some larger narrative, but nothing really happens. But once you walk, you kind of slowly connect, I think, a larger whole. So this was filmed in China, again also indirectly related to Paris, because it's a copy city of parts of Paris. So they made a copy for like 100,000 people that looks exactly. You have the big boulevards, Haussmann boulevards, and Eiffel Tower and stuff like that. But it's out in the middle of nowhere, 2 hours from Shanghai. The reason why I wanted to work with this was because of the whole concept of the Venice Biennial, where you have like a structure representing a country and it's standing there the rest of the time just being empty, and it comes from a different historical time where you have also the big empires on the top of the hill at the Giardini, and then you have the smaller ones and the smaller countries kind of placed around it. And I was just interested in working at a place where that place that is kind of pretending to be something which it's not, like. And then, so the idea was to then film it almost like a Truffaut film, and film it as if it was Paris with 3 French actors that we had. These 2 guys we had flown in directly from Paris, so that was very surreal for them, especially because they just came. And the only way at night you can see it's not Paris is because they use cold light in their homes. expect more like chandelier warm light in a Paris apartment, but you have all this kind of cold light coming out. But so in this scene they're actually singing an old, while they're driving, they're singing an old Serge Gainsbourg love song duet while they drive through this in French.
But also the characters in the film, you might not really see that they really interact with the architecture.
Yeah,
Quite
so
directly.
I wanted to use the whole city as a mediator for these three guys, because this kind of desolate is maybe only, I mean, it's made for 100,000, but maybe, I don't know how many people live there, maybe 10,000, 20,000. So it feels very empty, so I wanted to use the entire city to kind of, as a mediator for these three men to connect in like a intimate, subtle way. And so there's this sound creating from beer bottles that are built in all over the city in the walls, which is an illusion that I created, but it was based on an old bricklayer tradition, a Danish bricklayer tradition that's called the dead bricklayer, which is if the developer did not treat you right as a bricklayer, you would leave a little bottle in the wall, because that eventually, when the wind will hit the bottle in the right direction, it will make the bottle howl, and then you will feel like the house is haunted. And you can find examples of that goes 500 years back. That's one in Elsinore, in a church where you can still see the bottle, and you can't really, it's high up, and it just, so to be nice to the bricklayers. So that was kind of creating that huge organ of hundreds of bottles, just and the guys were listening to it and kind of responding and connecting through these walls.
And then earlier this year, Jesper had a big solo show in Palais de Tokyo in Paris, where you actually choose to show your enormous new installation in the basement of the building, right? Which is not normally used for exhibitions.
Yeah, no artist wants to do that. So, but I chose it because I thought it was a very complex space, like 2 levels, and I mean it's very tall somewhere. Other times it's really low, and it's underneath a cinema, which I also used. So it's like the inverse space of a cinema. And we have the, like here, you imagine that, so the ceiling also goes down underneath. So we were up there and downstairs. Yeah.
And so Jesper built up this enormous structure of scaffolding, basically, where you could walk around and then you would see projected videos as you were passing by.
Yeah, it was actually, so the whole idea was based on, so the scaffolding is actually wheelchair ramps. So everyone are forced to take the wheelchair ramp, even equals, because all the staircases were obstructed by the ramps. So they were very long. Just to get down one flight, you would have to walk like 90 meters. So it was a lot about walking, actually, or if you were wheelchair bound. And I had a friend that came, and so it was possible to see the exhibition for once, like everyone else. But so it was all based. Everything is filmed in One World Trade Center, and the idea came from 2 things. First, from the space in Paris where they had the cinema, which was sealed off after one screening when it was built like 8 years ago, because it was constructed in a way that the sound was really bad. So they sealed it off, and it was never, it disappeared from the map, and it went under the name The Dead Baby. And so they just knew about this weird space, cinema space in there. So I was interested in a architecture that kind of was rejected as not functional, and that made me start thinking about the same in terms of ableism, which is discrimination that not so many people are, I think, aware of in their daily life. But if your elbow hurts, or as an able person, or you break a leg, suddenly you find out how difficult it is to get around, and especially this city, where I mean there's very few elevators at subways and stuff like that. So I mean, of course you can get around, but it's not easy. So I was interested in that, and then at the same time in my bedroom, suddenly I have had sunlight 1 hour before than ever before, because the One World Trade Center is angled in a way that the sun hits, and I get at 6 o'clock it's right in my face. Anyways, but I was interested in that building as well, because it is in a way feels to me that it's a prosthetic of the city. It represents, again, a structure that represents something that is no longer something else. And so that was kind of the way that these elements were, these architectural concepts were kind of setting the overall concept for the installation. And then I wanted to work, so everything is shot in the World Trade Center outside, and it's 2 characters. It's a child, 11 years old child, who has CMT disability, which affects, it's a neurological disease, and it affects her hands and her feet. I wanted to involve her and give her full agency by having her actually, you hear soundtrack, each film, there are 8 channels, and each of them have this piano piece, but it gets more and more, it's just kind of resonance feedback, so it starts as a real clean piano piece, and then slowly it kind of dissolves into just weird, as you walk through, because we kept playing the sound in the different spaces till kind of you lost the sound of the keys, but only the feedback from the walls to kind of make an audio portrait of each space. And then it turns out when you leave we try to get back up on all these wheelchair ramps, you come to the last film, and it's this little child, and she sits and plays the piano for that whole installation, so it's kind of giving her that agency that she's doing that. And another thing is she's standing playing with her image in the reflection downstairs, while at another video we have Tree Hemingway standing there, who's the great grandchild of Ernest Hemingway. And she is kind of, this is probably what is mostly connected to Hammershøi, in a very direct way, you could say. These kind of portraits of women from behind, and she's having a monologue, she's just standing there talking and stuttering a bit.
And being very introverted. Yeah. I mean, picking up on the Hammershøi cue, it's obvious that you, in a way, you share this interest in isolated women, or women that seem socially isolated and preoccupied with some kind of act, but we don't really know what they're doing.
Yeah, so this, the reason why I mean, she's clearly not, she's clearly a very beautiful young woman, and usually that's not a character I would work with, but I was interested in her kind of character in relation to the disabled child, and kind of working with a character that is the idealized or fetishized image, or the obsession of society of youth and beauty, so that was why I challenged her character in various ways in those 3 films. Yeah, so this is another film that is actually on Times Square every night now on 50 screens, so if you should be in the area, you should look up. So she's just sitting there eating a corn with these machinery that is kind of a passive motion machinery that is controlling your hands. It's kind of for rehabilitation. So it's all about the body in this urban space around the World Trade Center, which is such heavy history. A lot of New Yorkers have not even been down there yet. And trying to, because I'm not, it's not about a critique of the new structure, but it's about kind of insisting on having these 2 female characters reclaiming their body in this area that is kind of, I mean, it is a little bit cold because it's just glass steel and it's all new, and so it's very, very windy. But so these characters are kind of very physical, present.
Yeah. Also, there's another video showing the little girl
actually sticking her hands. She's standing on the street outside the building and sticking in her hands underneath the glass plates of the facade.
Making and also making a rhythm with a tiny rock that she's been playing with, and all these things. I just asked her to be playful with the building, kind of, and not, you know, accept, of course, her own image in the reflection of this. So she's just playing around with the building, on the foot of the building. So you see the huge tower, World Trade Center, and then she's just standing there playing with the image.
So in this project, in a way, comes together some of these key issues that you've been preoccupied with, the depiction of the singular, detached person that you watch from a distance and performing these ambiguous acts that you're not really able to see what is, and then the relationship between the subject and the building itself, or the architectural frame of it. And maybe you could end this conversation with you talking a little bit about, trying to explain us a little bit about what's going to happen downtown in 40 minutes. Yeah, you're going to.
Yeah. So I'm sorry that the timing is, but the Performa put the performance very early, so unfortunately it kind of collapsed. Not collapsed, but clashed. Yeah, so downtown today and tomorrow, also last night, 4:30, doing this performance with another Danish artist called Foss. It's kind of a concert, kind of a musical piece, but it's structured. It's also in the financial district. It's on 225 Liberty Street, so it's not directly in relation to this, but it's kind of built. It just takes off where I left in that film, and then continues kind of an investigation in that kind of area. And so it's structured as a symphony in 4 parts, and we have different elements that then creates music, and it's a lot about representation and presentation of characters, but also the whole area and the spectacle down there. So the project is called, the title is kind of long. In the shadow of a spectacle is the view of the crowd. And it's playing on the spectacle, but actually we are also taking the spectacle away a little bit, so we obstruct a lot of what you would expect when you know you're going down there. And a lot of people yesterday were kind of, you can see some of the nice view, but it's in the top floor in a building, so people have the expectation that they're going to get up and take a lot of selfies, but unfortunately that's a disappointment. So it's kind of, we make only like some very small cutouts where you can see in geometrical shapes, and where you can see a very orchestrated view of the city skyline. So it's like a triangle. And people were lining up just to get that view. So it's kind of fun.
And also you walk around, right?
Yeah, you walk around. There's both films and music and live performance. That's really around. I'm so sorry that it's like that, but fortunately, yeah. But thank you so much.